I'm walking through a city-owned house in Wynberg with a man named Laurie Peregrino. It was probably beautiful at one point, but it's impossible to tell in its current state. The doors and window panes are gone, the electric box and wires have been ripped out of the wall. Nearly everything of value has been looted. It's a wreck. It's awaiting demolition. Houses like these in Wynberg have ignited a passionate debate over Cape Town road planning. And the debate has grown from a local feud between Wynberg community members and city council to a national one. Provincial parliament has since been dragged in, and now the South Roads Family Association has solicited help from the ANC. Laurie, a member of that association, lives about 1 kilometer from here, and he's been fighting to remain in his home, which he leases from the city. 25 other tenants along South Road face the same threat. In September 2014, they received eviction notices. They were instructed to move out by January 31st, 2015, to make way for the Wynberg portion of a new huge MyCiti bus route that runs 35 kilometers to Kailicha. If City Council approves it, the construction on South Road could transform this quiet residential 2-way road into a 4-lane truck road for buses and other traffic headed north towards Wynberg's busy main road. The South Road Families Association has since filed a lawsuit with the city, and the eviction notices have been retracted.
Along South Road, the city have bought up a lot of houses. They've even demolished houses before even public participation process, which, you don't knock down houses when you're supposedly going to be doing a public participation process about the plan.
Yeah, it sort of demonstrates you're not serious about the public participation.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
That's Kristina.
Yes.
She's chairperson of the Wynberg Residents and Ratepayers Association, another local advocacy group. Her house is directly next to the main road portion of the proposed construction, so she has skin in the game too.
First off, I want to just say, because the city likes to point out that we're against the MyCiti, we're not against the MyCiti. This bus is purely for Kailicha and Mitchell's Plain, which is great. I mean, we need to connect the different parts of the city. But our argument has been why do you want to knock down houses when we're in a housing crisis? Mm-hmm. Yes, we need to connect people, but not to the detriment of knocking down houses, of destroying existing neighbourhoods. Because what is being proposed will be fundamentally change an established residential neighbourhood. And you don't know, Wynberg is over 200 years old. It's been around forever. One of the oldest settlements in Cape Town. What we've said from the beginning is that the route that they have chosen without any consultation and included in their conceptual plan doesn't actually go anywhere near the transport interchange, which seems a bit odd for an integrated public transport network. So they are proposing building a new road parallel to the existing South Road, so that would be a new 4-lane road running along, knocking down a lot of houses. In all, 100 properties will be affected. This road was actually planned during apartheid era. That's when the plans date from. So this road would then go along, knocking down these houses, up to Main Road. They would have to build a bridge or a subway to cross over the railway line. Then it goes along Main Road for a little bit, and then another new road they'd build something called the Brodie Road Couplet that hasn't been proclaimed as a road, not in its entirety, and it's not zoned for transport, for roads.
And so you have proposed a different route, an alternative route.
Yes, the alternative route would use existing roads, which is, I think, what they've done in most parts. The city of Cape Town often talk about all transport for Cape Town. Sea Point is such a good place, and I agree. And in the City Bowl, fabulous. All those MyCiti areas, all those routes, they use existing roads. So we're saying in a residential area such as Wynberg, or a mixed-use area, which is the case around, so we move in towards the CBD, then why aren't we using existing roads? Because there are roads that are big enough. So what we're saying is that you can come along Rosemead Avenue and then up Broad Road, which is broad as its name says. Also, and then it leads right into the transport interchange. And yes, there needs a lot of work to be done, but rather spend a lot of money on upgrading the entire transport interchange area, which means the east and west side, incorporating the station. There were plans drawn up a couple of decades ago, I think, on that. But, people always complain about the transport interchange, but no investment has been done there since the late 1990s. So, yes, it needs upgrading, but it should be done as part of a broader development plan. So, yes, we say that it is possible. It would still bring people to the transport interchange. People would then get off the MyCiti. They could either walk to their destination in Wynberg, if that's where they're going, or they could change onto other transport modes, whether it be taxis or the station, or the railway, which is the point of integrated public transport.
But let's return to the city's current plans, which have not yet been approved. South Road has been proclaimed for road construction, and the city already owns many properties along it, like Laurie's home. The city has been chewing on the South Road plans for a few decades and nearly went through with similar construction in 2002, but it was rejected. The Brody Road couplet, which would turn part of Main Road into a one-way, is designed to reduce congestion in the main business hub of Wynberg. If the city officially decides to build this route, it will need to buy up remaining properties. How much that will cost is unclear.
South Road, they nearly pushed through that proposal. It was opposed by the entire Wynberg community, east and west, and by business, same as now. The Wynberg Improvement District doesn't agree with the Brody Road couplet. And a resolution was passed unanimously by the then sub-council, which was completely apolitical. It was listening to the community. And that was back in 2002, and we heard absolutely nothing. We all assumed that it would just gone, it was over. Nothing would happen. The resolution said that there had to be full public support and a proper meaningful public participation process before anything further was done. And then the first thing we heard was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. There was an article in the People's Post saying, there's going to be the Brody Road couplet. So we have been asking since then our ward councillor, then we asked Brett Herron, what's happening, and nobody would tell us anything. They said, oh no, wait for the public participation process. And we kept saying, but why are you even including Brody Road couplet? There's this resolution from 2002. We submitted questions, and I have to say they weren't very satisfactory answers. We followed every single path we could find, whether it was trying through the ward councillor, and through the public participation. Obviously, we've submitted not just us, but a number of people have submitted, made submissions in terms of public participation, and we have not had any feedback. They said, thank you very much, it'll be considered. Whether they will take it into account, we have no idea.
And what exactly did the public participation look like? How was that structured?
Well, it was rather like, this seems to be the theme for public participation in the City of Cape Town. Here's our plan. Do you like it?
The public participation forums ran 6 weeks during June and July. When I had the chance to speak with Councillor Brett Herron, who is the public face of these MyCiti plans, I spoke of the efficacy of these meetings. I recently spoke with one member of the Wynberg Ratepayers and Residents Association and then another member of the South Roads Family Association, both of whom had been present at these public participation processes. Both of these residents felt that the community in Wynberg hadn't really been included in the discussion at these forums, that they were more the city council explaining what the plans were and then letting people speak, but not really seeming receptive or willing to work together. So in what way is the city planning to alter the route to take into consideration the concerns of the Wynberg residents?
Well, we're not saying that we are altering the route. I haven't seen the outcome of the public consultation process. We conducted more than 30 of these public hearings or meetings along the full route, and Wynberg is one small component of it. So we have to weigh needs of about 1 million potential commuters in on the decision-making process. So I haven't seen the full extent of the public comment and the suggestions and the proposals from the communities across the entire stretch of the route is being considered by the transport planners, and I will await their proposed changes, if any. But I think it is a continuous fabrication on the part of the Wynberg and South Road families that they are not being considered. They have the same right of input and the same right to participate as everybody else who is impacted by this route. They were able to attend more than 30 meetings, and many of them attended more than one. So they had several bites of the cherry when they could make their input, and all of the input would be considered. In fact, for the Wynberg Residents Association, we extended the closing date for public comment on 2 occasions so that they could make a substantial written input as well. So we had a deadline by which we wanted all of the public comment in, and we extended it twice at their request so that they could comment in whatever format they wanted to. We also added an extra public meeting at their request after the meeting that was scheduled for the Wynberg community fell just before a long weekend, and they felt that the Wynberg community is a community that would go away for long weekends and be out of town, so we added an extra meeting for them.
As you had mentioned, the route along South Road is based on an old scheme. A very similar proposal for this South Road route and the Brody couplet were proposed in 2002, but were very defiantly rejected by the community. Why in 2015 do you think this construction, this particular route, is warranted when it was not accepted over a decade ago?
Well, I think that we are consulting with the community again. It was rejected in a different context in 2002. We must remember that it wasn't actually rejected by the council. At the time, the ANC was the government, and although the sub-council at the time recommended that the Brody Road couplet be shelved and be subject to further public consultation, when it got to full council, the council adopted it as the solution for Wynberg. So there was a public consultation process, and council took a decision in 2002 to plan the future of Wynberg based on the Brody Road couplet. A lot has changed over the last 13 years. The Brody Road couplet is perhaps even more necessary than it was in 2002 because Wynberg has deteriorated further. And in the interim, we are now pursuing a public transport program where BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, is providing the missing trunk roads that are needed in the city where rail will never go. So it is appropriate that we take that solution back to the community, which is what we've just done. And if BRT is going to work in Wynberg, the buses need to be able to move to the CBD, and the Brody Road couplet is less intrusive alternative. The other alternative is to use the old Wynberg main road scheme, which is to widen the main road, which will destroy all of that heritage architecture, and to implement the Wynberg bypass scheme, which will basically put a highway through the residential part of Wynberg. So the Brody Road couplet is the least intrusive solution to the congested CBD of Wynberg. But we will see what the outcome of this public participation process is.
Kristina Davidson of the Wynberg Residents and Ratepayers Association raised another concern about the conceptual MyCiti plans. How do we know they'll even work?
And I don't think anyone knows whether the passenger volumes are going to work on all the routes. There are certain routes in town that have been changed or even closed because they didn't have the passenger numbers to warrant it. There has been no proper assessment done. They've based the plans on 1990s studies, which were rejected by the community back then anyway. There's been no social economic impact. They cannot give us any economic development stats to back up their proposal. Because I'm a great believer in business and economic development. If they can show us the studies that prove this is going to be good for Wynberg, I would really appreciate it. And if I may come back to the Brody Road couplet, part of that is turning Main Road one way. And I've yet to meet a business owner on Main Road who is in favour. And yet the city, and our councillor, our ward councillor also, and Brett Herron, they keep repeating the same refrain, oh, but Wynberg needs revitalising. Therefore, this is going to sort out Wynberg. Well, quite honestly, if Wynberg needs revitalising, why have we got a new Pick and Pay? Why have we got Home Choice doing a multi-million upgrade and investment, the whole block? Going to be employing I don't know how many thousands of people there. Why have we got a new mall at Riverstone Mall in the last 3 years? Why is, I can go on. Why have we still got businesses like Wynberg Pharmacy that are 60, 70 years old and still going strong? I don't know who comes up with these plans. It's certainly not people living on the grounds, and that doesn't mean to say that Wynberg doesn't have its challenges. It certainly does, like all cities.
During my interview with Councillor Brett Herron, I asked him whether a socioeconomic impact report had been conducted, some kind of report that would detail how the roads would affect the existing neighborhoods, the existing businesses, with regard to the South Road and Brody couplet, what the passenger metrics would look like?
Well, there have been several reports on the impact of the poor performance of the transport network on the Wynberg area over many, many years. And there is a very good report about how Wynberg could be regenerated from an economic perspective that it has informed the proposals. So there's a report that has identified that the bottlenecks and the lack of accessibility to the western side of the railway line in Wynberg has contributed significantly to the decay and the poor performance of Wynberg, the Wynberg CBD as an economic hub. And in fact, the recommendation from the consultants was that the Brody Road couplet would alleviate that and would regenerate Wynberg and create new business opportunities that will not exist unless we address the transport congestion.
And this report that you're referring to, was this report conducted within the past couple years?
The report is, I think the report was conducted about, I'm going to guess now, about in the mid-2000s, and that led to the first routing of the Brody Road couplet. And then there was a more recent transport assessment report that confirmed that the Brody Road couplet was the solution to what was happening in Wynberg. I think what we've seen in Wynberg since the commissioning of that report, and because we didn't ever implement the proposals, is a further deterioration of the trade and the environment in Wynberg.
And are these reports open to the public, or is this just internal?
The reports have been shared with the Wynberg Residents Association. The reports were part of a sub-council report many years ago, so they are public documents. They're not secret. Of course, the Wynberg Residents Association, which is a small group of people who are opposed to this, dispute the findings. But we had several people at the public meetings who stood up and said exactly what the report is saying, that Wynberg is decaying, and the delay in resolving the transport problems in the Wynberg CBD has led to further decay, and we need to do something about it.
The proposed figure I have right now for the construction of the South Road and Brody couplet route is 209 million rand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if we have that information.
You don't know if you have it? Okay.
We've estimated what the entire corridor will cost in terms of construction, but I don't believe we've said 609 million rand for the Brody Road couplet, not that I'm aware of.
And is there any sense how much the construction will cost?
Well, the entire project, which is about 50 kilometers in length, is estimated from an infrastructure point of view would cost about 4 billion rand. But that is the two trunk routes that make up the Phase 2A or Lansdowne-Wetton corridor. The trunk route from Mitchell's Plain through to Claremont, and the trunk route from Khayelitsha through to Wynberg. All of the stations, the depots, and the right-of-way.
And does that budget include the money that will be required for the city to buy the remaining properties that lie in the way of the construction of these new routes?
I think it is, the estimated property acquisitions is included in that.
And this 4 billion rand that you've just referred to for the whole new route, this money is coming from the national government, is that right?
The BRT projects in all of the cities, the capital expenditure is mostly funded by the national fiscus. So the funding, the capital funding will mostly come from grant funding.
How many more properties in Wynberg still need to be purchased by the city?
Well, I don't know. It depends on what the final route is that is proposed and approved by council. So we proposed a route. Offhand, I don't know how many properties we would have needed to acquire for that proposed route. But what we ultimately will have to purchase, if any, will depend on the final route that is approved by council.
Finally, the pleas of the various Wynberg advocacy groups fell upon sympathetic ears. On May 12th, the provincial government's Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works held a public hearing with stakeholders. The Taxis Associations, the South Roads Family Association, the Wynberg Residents and Ratepayers Association, and the city councilors behind the MyCiti route, including Brett Herron. They were all there. Kristina Davidson presented gripes about the bus route and spoke of those threatened by eviction. And while it took some time, the May 12th meeting proved to be a potential turning point. The Standing Committee requested a list of the 27 properties that would be demolished on South Road, and that Herron and other city council members visit the route with committee members. When Councilor Herron rejected this resolution, the ANC took notice and said on Monday it would work to halt the national grant funding for the road. I asked Brett Herron about this. I understand the provincial government's Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works made a resolution on this proposed MyCiti bus route, and in part, the Standing Committee requested that the city make an oversight visit and list the 27 properties that would be demolished in the construction of this route. Did the city reject this resolution?
I gave a presentation to the Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works on the 12th of May this year at the request of the chairperson. On the 13th or 14th of August, more than 3 months later, I got a letter from the chairperson saying after I'd left the meeting on the 12th of May that the Standing Committee took a resolution that they wanted a whole lot of information that I had already provided in the presentation, most of it, and they wanted a trip on the new route or the proposed route, and they wanted a reply from me within a week or 10 days. So, yes, I rejected their request for more information for a number of reasons. First of all, 3 months had passed from when I made the presentation to when I received the letter asking for more information. And during those 3 months, we have conducted and concluded the public participation process. And the concept plan that I presented to the Standing Committee may no longer be relevant. I mean, we are now considering all of the input from the public consultation process. The engineers and the transport planners are considering whether we need to deviate that route. And so the project has progressed way beyond information that the Standing Committee asked for. In addition, the Standing Committee has no oversight function over the MyCiti project. The MyCiti project is a city project, and the Standing Committee on Transport and Public Works has no role to play in investigating this project and they certainly have no oversight mandate. So the information they asked for is, by the time they asked for it, was incoherent, irrelevant, and as I said, they don't have an oversight function over the course.
According to an article in the Cape Times that was published on Monday, the ANC will approach the national government to halt funding for the MyCiti bus project in Cape Town after the city's refusal.
That's what one of the ANC MPLs, Cameron Dugmore, has said. He said it last year. He said it very often. I'm not sure if he is unaware that we operate in a constitutional democracy, and the city of Cape Town is part of that democracy and part of that country, and that funding is not a gift that can be withdrawn at the whim of a politician in the provincial legislature. The city of Cape Town is entitled to that funding, and Mr. Dugmore has no right to interfere with the funding. And if the national minister was to collude with Mr. Dugmore to withhold or try to withhold any funding from us, then we would have to approach the Constitutional Court. Funding is approved and granted to the city in terms of the Division of Revenue Act. It's an act of Parliament that allocates that funding to the city, not the National Minister of Transport, and certainly not Mr. Dugmore.
And so you don't believe there's much credence to this threat?
I think it is political grandstanding. I think that Mr. Dugmore should speak to Mr. Ehrenreich and some of the members of the ANC caucus in the city of Cape Town, who all are asking for more public transport in the Metro Southeast. And Mr. Dugmore seems to be on a frolic of his own in which he's trying to derail this project for whatever political reasons he thinks may serve his purposes. So I don't believe there's any credence to it. If the national minister was to try and interfere with the funding that has already been allocated to the city in terms of the Division of Revenue Act, then we would have to approach the High Court for assistance, and certainly we would do so. You focused for the last half an hour on what is happening in Wynberg. I think it would be really useful if you considered what happens over the rest of the route. I mean, there are 34 communities, 1.4 million possible beneficiaries of this service. And the public hearings that I attended and the feedback that I've got from the staff is that all of those communities are desperate for this public transport connection. Many of those communities are traveling way out of their route or out of their way in order to access Claremont and Wynberg because there is no direct rapid connection between communities like Khayelitsha and Mitchell's Plain, Nyanga, Gugulethu, Hanover Park, Mannenberg, who all need to connect to these hubs and are not able to do so in an efficient way. So it would be very useful if you considered the whole of the route and not just the complaint of Wynberg.
While I agree that the whole of the proposed MyCiti bus route must be considered, I also think that the city owes the residents of Wynberg a thorough cost comparison of its current South Road Brody Couplet route with other alternatives. Thus far, it doesn't look like Brett Herron and City Council have made their best effort to work with the community. Furthermore, it's too soon to know whether Cameron Dugmore's threat to halt the funding will really take effect. While Kristina Davidson and other Wynberg residents insist this was never a political matter, that is what it's become. For the Newsline team, I'm Michael Lowinger.